Hello, everyone. You are someone, I'm someone else, and today we're going to be talking about this little country here. Honestly, not that little. It's actually pretty big. It's probably the third or fourth biggest country in terms of land, and it's definitely the third biggest in terms of population, although Nigeria is catching up. Anyway, that's besides the point. You are someone, I'm someone else, and today we're going to be talking about this country in particular. What is this country called? This country is called the United States of America. Now, that's kind of a misleading name because there's obviously 6 other federal subjects within the United States that have people in it. But let's just call it the United States Territories and District of America, right? This is what we call the United States Territories and District of America. This little country here. And as you can see on this flag, there are 13 stripes for the 13 original colonies, or states, as we like to say that they are today. 13 original states that fought a war against the British Empire. The first British Empire, not the second one, obviously. And then these, on the M sign, I believe it's called the M sign. I forgot the name of it. The Canton, that's right, the Canton. On the Canton, there are 50 stars. For the 50 states, there are 48 on the non-continuous United States, plus Alaska and Hawaii. So, yeah, this is the flag. It's beautiful. 13 stripes, 50 stars. The flag design's been going downhill lately because it just kept getting more and more stars, and it's kind of hard to keep track of all the stars, but, yeah, it's kind of cool looking. That being said, there are a lot of state flags, too, like we got Tennessee here. But anyway, we're going to talk about the United States and why I like it so much. It's one of the best countries in the world. Well, regardless of what Midwestern Mark says, or whatever YouTuber you can claim says, the United States is a beautiful, beautiful country. And there's a lot that goes into this country. You look at the first thing that happened was obviously there's a revolt that happened in 1775. What was it? Paul Revere and whatever. Massachusetts shot her around the world, whatever, right? Then Common Sense was published. Then July 4th happened. Then we had the Articles of Federation. We had it for, I think 5 to 10 years, Articles of Federation. I know it happened in 1777, they wrote it. I think in 1781 is when it was enacted. Don't quote me on that. I don't believe so. I don't know. Maybe it was 1783 when all the states were enacted on it. And then something very strange happened. We kind of took the ideals of the Declaration of Independence and we put it in a constitution. And we wrote these 7 articles with a lot of there were also amendments afterwards, but we wrote 7 articles down. And these articles actually directly quoted some of the things in the Declaration of Independence. We said, the king did this. Well, we had it separated out into 2 different bodies. Now, it can't be just one person that does it. It has to be Congress and a president instead of a king doing it. And that's what makes this country great. So we had that slow down system. And another thing you love about Americans is they're very delusional. Delusional in a good and bad way. They're delusional in the fact that they think their college degree has any value, which is kind of funny. It's hilarious to watch. They believe the labor theory of value. Dumb, whatever. Not true, but some of them do. They're kind of dumb like that. They believe that their labor has value inherently, when that's not true. Like, if you're all alone, and you're making mud pies. You're making mud pies, right? Does your labor have any value if no one's willing to pay for it? No, your labor has no value. Your value is what you contribute to somebody else. That's what your value is. If you're the world's best mom, but you're on Mars, and you only have one kid, how are you supposed to prove you're the world's best mom? You have no value to compare it to. Therefore, you have no value. That's the thing. You have to compare it to something else that has value. Great thing about the United States, right? You look at some countries like Cuba, like countries that have really, really high welfare systems. Sweden doesn't have as high a GDP compared to other people think. GDP-wise, Sweden actually is a lower welfare state per GDP than other countries. Like you look at Cuba and China, they have a vast welfare system for their countries, but there's a ceiling of what you can do because they tax so much of it. Like, there's a ceiling of what you can do, but there's a limit on what you get, or there's a minimum of what you get. So there's like this little in-between ground. The United States, you can be all the way from the bottom all the way to the top. You can have thousands of dollars in debt and millions of dollars from the top. And that's the beauty of the United States. It's so much more flexible just because no one's taking your money and just distributing it to people you don't really care about. You know what I mean? And this is the beauty of this living in the United States. You know, the fact that you keep your labor, you keep your saving power, at least a little bit, not entirely anyway. But you know, as long as the Fed doesn't print to oblivion because it's controlled by a bunch of Keynesians. Yeah, what am I, an anti-Keynesian propagandist? Yeah, I am. But you know, I do read Keynesian theory. I disagree with it. But that's besides the point, right? Despite the fact that the United States is controlled by Keynesians, we still have this mindset that we can do whatever we want. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I'm very, very saddened that people are starting to look up to a state. Just starting to look up for the state. Oh, solve my solution, state. The state's not there to solve every solution. It's only there to solve, the Constitution literally states out the 17 things it can solve. And the Department of Education, by the way, is not one of them, so it's kind of unconstitutional. They do stretch out one of the meanings of one of the 17. It was like relating or something. They stretched out the meaning of all power or something, and then they were able to get the Department of Education constitutional. Anyway, that's besides the point, right? Despite the fact that we blatantly violate the Constitution, because it's pretty explicit in its words, what you're supposed to do, it's just, this place is beautiful. There's no place like it. You got the tropical islands of Hawaii. You even got free association clause with the Marshall Island, the Marshall Islands, Palau, and Federated States of Micronesia. Like, you can go to these tropical islands and get immigration status and citizenship really easily with those three countries. You can go to Guam. You can go to, obviously, we don't talk about the 5 territories that much. I will probably bring up the 5 territories at one point. But, you know, and people have this mindset that we were founded on slavery. That's not necessarily true. We rebelled because we had no representation in government, and a king was forcing us to buy tea. And even when you read some of the founding fathers, right? They said, "Oh, we're not going to destroy any private property. We're only going to destroy property of the king or property of the British government." Like, they were blatantly saying that they would only destroy property of the British government, right? When you read that, you start to understand that they rebelled against government tyranny, not corporate tyranny, or not like private tyranny or whatever, right? You start to realize, and then, you know, they have the Second Amendment to make sure that the government was in check at all times. Like, I don't know if people understand that we're the only country that has the right to keep, and not just keep, but bear arms, meaning you can go outside your home, supposedly without a license, although most states you can't, but some states you can go out without a license with a gun. I think that's a good thing, because let's say the attacker doesn't care about the law. If he has a gun and you don't, and you're outside your home, as soon as you get out of your home, you can't have a gun. The attacker's already has an advantage over you. He's not going to follow the law, and so he's just going to shoot you. And then there's nothing you can do to defend yourself. You have a gun, at least there's some deterrent for him not to shoot you. Or even if you do shoot in self-defense, like, I don't know, right? And, you know, you cannot take that gun away from the attacker unless they're willing to follow the law, and they're not going to. It's pretty obvious based on every single piece of evidence. The only people that are willing to give away their guns are law-abiding citizens. And so we must do what we can to protect the Second Amendment, because what's going to happen is they're going to license away all the legal gun owners, and the only people who are allowed to have guns are politicians with their security guards, rich people with their security guards, and then it's going to be criminals that act like security guards for their own criminal empires. That's what's going to happen in the future. I guarantee it. And so we must do our best, even if we fail, to at least preserve the individual right to own guns. Right? It never explicitly says that in the Constitution, but I would infer that we should have that. We should try to at least infer that we should have that, right? Other countries, you look at Guatemala, you look at most countries, except for El Salvador, they were able to secure people without guns. But like, you look at Israel, right? Perfect example. Israel now wants citizens to own guns because they're afraid that terrorists or whoever will go into their home and just slaughter them. And so they're just afraid for their lives now. And so the government has said, oh, if you have a gun, you can now have a gun. And it's like, yeah, but you should have made that right originally, because now you have people getting slaughtered in their homes. And I believe everyone should have a gun, regardless of what nationality or race or whatever. Like, guns, I believe the best way is to like teach tolerance to people somehow, at least in school, but also have guns. And I don't know how you do both, because now the world's becoming more and more radicalized, especially with Yemen. They got child soldiers. They're teaching people how to hate people young. Like, hatred's not just inherent, it's taught, and that's terrible for you, right? Look at Yemen. There's bombing a bunch of ships that have nothing to do with the Israeli-American conflict, right? Or Israel-Gaza conflict. They're attacking ships from Bangladesh. They're attacking ships from Liberia. Like, come on, guys, or Libya, whatever the name of the African country has a lot of ships, right? They're attacking all these ships that have nothing to do with Israel. They just want to freely trade with China and the rest of the world, right? I don't understand it. Really, it just sucks. The whole thing sucks. And the fact that people say, oh, we actually support Yemen bombing ships. Okay, well, the products go up then. Don't complain about the cost of living if the products go up. I'm more of a fan of free trade than you are. I'll say that. I don't like aggression. I agree with the non-aggressive principle. Basically, don't just take away my rights just because you believe something different. That's what the Yemenis people believe, at least some of the people in the Civil War. Now everyone in Yemen can have a gun without a license, because it's gotten so dangerous that literally they want people to have their own self-defense. And that's beautiful, right? But it's because of the war. If it wasn't for the war, I guarantee you they would restrict guns. If the government was actually powerful enough, they would probably restrict guns in a heartbeat. But that being said, right, despite that, there's so much beauty in the United States. And just, and we talk about, so they say it was founded by slavery. Some of these people say it was founded by slavery, and that's not true at all. You read the 27 points of the King's abuses, it's nothing to do with slavery and Declaration of Independence. And if people don't read that, they're going to just ignore it. They're just going to say, oh, it's blatantly founded on slavery. And then another thing is, oh, it's founded on Manifest Destiny massacring the natives. Now, people have always done Manifest Destiny throughout all of human history. The natives, how do you think they got the land? There were records of natives slaughtering other natives before we got here. Both of us are villains. To say that one is a villain and the other one's a hero just because they've lived in the land longer means nothing. Same with Israel, obviously. Israel, what they're doing now is completely unjustifiable. Like, maybe within a month, it was okay, but a couple months, after like killing 30,000 people, that some of them had nothing to do with Hamas, and some of them absolutely hate Hamas. Yeah, that has nothing to do with it. Like, again, right? That's the thing. We put blame on groups of people that have nothing to do with the conflict at hand. That's the problem I have with collectivism. I believe every individual should be judged based on their action, right? If a general does an action, an order that he was given by a higher command, let's say the president says to the general, oh, please take out this order, and then the general does it. Do I judge the general? Maybe a little bit. But the president I judge way more harshly than the general, right? It is very, very sad that people will blame a group of people, Americans, or even like for the genocide of natives, or they'll blame, let's say the whites for like enslaving the blacks or whatever, right? And not realizing, oh, people have been enslaved for thousands of years before the whites ever got a hold of other people, right? Like, you look at Africans, they enslaved each other multiple times. If you look at the history of the Congo, right? There's a kingdom, it was called the Kingdom of Congo, and it had a K instead of a C. And they were notorious for selling slaves to the Americas. Parts of Nigeria and the Gold Coast, also known as Ghana now, the Gold Coast was notorious for selling slaves. They would capture people, these black kings would capture people and sell it to the Europeans, and the Europeans would be like, okay, we didn't have to work any hard for these people. And it was like, if you were to ask a European in the 1400s that we would have like mass industrial slavery, because what was happening is feudalism, you could choose your lord that you could choose to pay taxes to. You were to ask people, oh, they didn't have a choice on their feudal lord. You were to ask people that system of like the slavery that we had in the 1800s, the early 1800s. You were to ask that ever happened, they would say no, that would never happen in like another hundreds of years. But obviously they were wrong, right? You were to ask someone from that time period. And that is such an interesting thing to me, because it was the Spanish mindset that really got that going, and then of course the Americans followed suit with it. It was the Spanish that held on to slavery the longest. It's quite interesting to me. And then we liberated the slaves with a giant civil war. We're the only country that really did that with. We're the only country that did a giant civil war to liberate people, and that's something that cannot be understated, I think. And so, say what you want about the United States, but we are a free and a brave country. And this saying how truly free and just blessed we all are to be in this land of, our 50 states, 5 territories, and 1 district that we have now. Just amazing. The history of all our states, and even the reservations within our states. I don't agree with the Native American reservations. I think they should be more privatized than what they are. But, it's what it is. Anyway, you are someone, I'm someone else. Goodbye.